and then it goes down into the aquifers and it picks up these monatomic elements, and those monatomic elements are anti-gravitational, they're levitational, and it flows through the aquifers and it comes back up to spring heads. And these levitational elements are actually what's bringing up the water to the spring heads. That's why David Wolf and others talk a lot about drinking spring water. It's because it's gone through that whole hydrological cycle and it's picked up all of these energies, and it's very healing and rejuvenative. So within your body is an ocean of water. The elements in your body are in the exact same ratios as seawater. It's not by mistake. We are creatures of the earth, and we have an inner ocean within inside of us. And so all of those elements, they hold energies and they hold frequencies as well. So your consciousness is sitting here all the time, radiating scalar waves, and going through the body into the superconducting junctures, going into the water and imparting frequencies into there. So what you're thinking and how you are being is affecting all this matter energy system within your body. So it behooves us all to operate in a way that's loving and kind and conscious and open and aware. And so that's one of the things that living food does. So you've got all that going on. And on the other end of the scale, we've got cell phones and Wi-Fi and wireless computers and remote controls and electric cars, electric grids, the wiring in our houses, refrigerators, on and on and on. We've got all these electrical appliances and devices all around us. We've got electric wires running all across the planet, a lot of them underground, a lot of them above ground. If you look right behind you, we've got high tension power lines back behind us. These things all put out fields, and we've heard of instances where people living under power lines have a higher rate of cancer. Well, it goes back to what I've just been saying, that all of our cells are sitting there trying to talk to each other, and we're going through life, sometimes maybe beating ourselves up, not being our best friends, or engaging other people that are doing that with us. We're talking on our cell phones, we're sitting with our Wi-Fi, we're inside of a box full of wires with electricity running through it, putting off all kinds of fields all the time. We're surrounded by all these devices everywhere we go. You know, the hotel where I'm at, I'm in a room that's immersed in a Wi-Fi field, and not only from the hotel I'm in, but the businesses around me. Just that stuff's everywhere. Does it have an impact on you? Absolutely it does. There's a man named George Carlo who was hired by the cell phone industry to determine if cell phones were damaging to the human body. And he was a very well credentialed scientist and very well respected. And what he found out was, in fact, they were extremely damaging to the body. Cell phones are microwave transmitters and receivers. And so microwave radiation is, you know, what you cook food with if you're into microwaving food. And what it does is it excites the water in the cells of the food to the point where they get hot. It creates friction and it creates heat. And it can cook things, as you well know. So we've got millions and millions and millions of people around the world putting microwave transmitters up to their brains. So George Carlo found out that that's exactly what's going on. It's cooking tissue, it's heating up tissue, and it's interfering with cellular communication. Well, your brain is the most dense part of your body where cellular communication is going on. You've got trillions of neurons sitting there trying to communicate with the rest of your body, and you're putting a radiation device, a microwave radiation device up to it. So you're heating up that tissue. And so George Carlo, being a conscientious person, when he discovered how damaging these things were, what he found out was that they were not only heating up the tissue and interfering with cellular communication, but they were creating cancer on a large scale. He discovered that cell phones are the #1 cause of cancer for children now. So when he decided to release the information, of course, the cell phone industry did its best to squash him. And so this information has been actively suppressed, and the cell phone industry's position has been that, oh, well, these things don't really hurt you. And yet, surreptitiously, they very quietly reduced the wattage of phones from 1 watt down to 1/10 of a watt. And they did it very quickly within a couple of years. When I moved from North Carolina to Florida, I had one of those huge bag phones. It was a 1 watt phone, and I loved it because I could get reception anywhere. And little did I know back then that this thing was damaging me. I moved to Florida, and I had to get a new program, a new cell phone program, because my carrier wasn't the same as in the previous state. So they wouldn't let me use the bag phone, or they had a heavy penalty. It was hundreds of dollars to continue using it. So I had to switch to one of the smaller phones. So with these cell phones, and George Carlo, he's out there. You can go to YouTube and you can search on his name, George C-A-R-L-O. He was one of the first people to start exposing this, and there have been many others since all around the world that are showing very hard science that these things do indeed cause a lot of damage in the body. They create cancer, particularly eye cancer and brain cancer. And if you think that using a headset will protect you, no, it drives it deeper into the brain. A headset, unless you're using a ferrite bead on a headset, it's sending that signal deeper into the brain, so you just get tumors deeper in the brain. So cell phones are a big issue. I see a lot, I do consultations, and I see a lot of people whose brains are accelerated from cell phone use, and their thyroids are out of whack from cell phone use, just from that alone. So if you use a cell phone a lot, I would recommend getting educated about it and learn about it. What it does as far as accelerating the brain waves. We have something in our atmosphere called, it's been labeled the Schumann resonance. And it was discovered back in the 1950s by a man named Schumann, that in our atmosphere there's a pulsing that goes on. Solar radiation, cosmic radiation, and energy from lightning, they all come down and they hit the surface of the Earth, and they bounce back up and they hit the ionosphere, and they just keep bouncing back and forth between the surface of the Earth and the ionosphere. And it does that at a very specific frequency of about 7.83 cycles per second, otherwise known as hertz. So that, normally, if there was no man-made electrical device on this planet, that's what would be going on. And that frequency, what it does is it interacts with the brain in the brain wave states. Our brain is like a little engine, and it's sitting there all day long, humming along, with sound, electrical impulses. And when you're engaged in something like this, where you're interacting with somebody and you're awake, it's operating at certain frequencies. And as you go to rest, close your eyes, it slows down. You go into sleep states, it slows down even more, and you get into the deepest sleep states, it slows way down. And that Schumann resonance, that pulsing in our atmosphere, it's like the Earth Mother's heartbeat to children, to slow our brain waves, to keep them calm and relaxed during the day when we're awake, but also when we go to sleep at night, to slow it way down and get us into those deepest sleep states so that we regenerate and rest optimally. Well, now that Schumann resonance, because of all the electromagnetic pollution on the planet, it's about double of what it should be. And so you can think of it like listening to music. If you're listening to quiet, slow, relaxing music, it's going to slow you down and relax you. If you're listening to something fast and with a thumping beat, it's going to wake you up and excite you. Well, that's what's going on 24/7. Everybody's brains are being excited all the time by that Schumann resonance. Boom, 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 boom. And you don't even know it. And so you've got that going on. Then you add cell phones to it. You add all the other stuff we've got to it. And what you've got is a radically accelerated brainwave state. And that affects the glands, the endocrine glands in the body. It wears them out. It exhausts them. It throws off the hormones. And it just does this whole cascade of problems in the body. So what do you do about it? Well, fortunately, all of these problems that I see in the world, these potential problems, I also see solutions for them, whether it's water pollution or air pollution or EMF pollution or whatever. I know people that are making devices and products and natural things that can heal these things up. So I'm very optimistic about all this. In a practical sense, what can you do about this stuff? Well, there are several different technologies out on the market that you can buy. You've probably seen these pendants, these EMF pendants. I've got one on actually from the folks back here, the crystal pendants. There are other EMF pendants like this, and there are basically two kinds on the market. They're all over the internet, different price ranges, and the expensive ones aren't necessarily better than the inexpensive ones. Actually, the inexpensive ones, most of those I've seen are better than the expensive ones. But the way they work, there's two basic technologies. You've got one where you have some kind of a resin, either fiberglass or plastic or rubber or something like that, with nanocrystals that are embedded in them. And what nanocrystals are is they're just crystals that are extremely small, on the scale of billionths of an inch in size. They're so small that they act just like those superconducting junctures in the body. They act like an interface between those higher frequency energies of consciousness and tachyon energy and Reiki energy and what's called 0 point energy, which is the sea of energy in between all subatomic particles, all matter.